Welcome everybody, it's Gligar here, and today we're going to be doing a Pokemon Fire Red solo run using, you guessed it, just a Gligar. This won't be a Nuzlocke or anything, this is just simply a solo run with Gligar in Gen 3 Kanto, played at ×4 speed, so I just wanted to see how quickly I could complete the game with just a Gligar. Before we get into the run, it's worth mentioning that back in Gen 3, Gligar doesn't get any stab moves via level up, so this should be interesting. And although it didn't get its evolution Gliscor until Gen 4, it actually had quite a respectable base stat total of 430 prior to that. In the early game, I'm hoping that this Gligar will be pretty useful, but maybe it will fall off in a later game. But without further ado, let's just get on with the run and see what happens. So as usual, we start off in Pallet Town and we get a choice of the 3 of the Kanto starters. We've got a Bulbasaur, a Squirtle and a Charmander. Now, I've edited what the starter Pokemon is, so I've swapped out Charmander for Gligar, which means our rival will pick Squirtle, making the run harder for us since Gligar is weak to water. Upon checking out this Gligar, we noticed that it has an impish nature, which is probably the best nature for a Gligar, and its 2 moves that it has from default are Poison Sting and Sand Attack, which could both be useful early in game. It also has the ability Hyper Cutter, which negates the effect of Intimidate, so I don't doubt that that will be useful at some point in the run. Now that we've got our starter Pokemon, we can begin our journey. But before we can leave the lab, our rival challenges us to a battle, which is usually just a scratch and tackle fest, but this time it's a Poison Stick and tackle fest. Hooray for variety. We trade hits back and forth, but luckily I managed to get the poison on the Squirtle, otherwise I think I genuinely would have lost this first battle, which doesn't really bode well for the rest of the run. But needless to say, we get a decent amount of XP points and level up twice. Yes you did, sir. We continue north to Viridian City, and once we get there, we decide to box our starter Pokemon, because this is a Gligar solo run. There's no room for Charmander on this team, so please, kindly sir, get in the box. We head to the mart to grab Oak's parcel, and then deliver it to him. What do I look like, a fucking delivery boy? Now that we've run errands for this grown-ass man, he finally rewards us with giving us a Pokédex each, and with that, our journey can officially begin. Continue north to Viridian Forest, where we encounter our first NPC trainer that isn't our rival, Bugcatcher Rick. He has 2 Pokemon, one Weedle and one Kakuna. Knowing that Weedle only has Poison Sting, initially I think this is fine, because I will resist it. However, I get poisoned and then I realise that I'm dealing less damage to Weedle than Weedle is dealing to me. And it soon becomes apparent that I'm not going to win this battle. So, on our first NPC trainer that wasn't the rival, we actually lose. Realising that I'm obviously too low of a level to even beat the Bugcatchers, I'm thinking, how am I going to beat Brock? Because he's coming up soon. So I decided to double back and then go and do the optional rival battle on Route 22 just for some XP, whilst also grinding on some wild Pokemon for levels. Unlike the Bugcatcher, we actually managed to beat our rival this time, so in my head I'm kind of thinking like, is the Kanto rival worse than Bugcatcher Rick? Maybe Bugcatcher Rick should be the new champion of Kanto, just a thought. Or maybe I'm just shit at the game. But I doubt that. Right? Anyway, back into Viridian Forest now, and after finally defeating the first Bugcatcher that we got stuck on, Rick, fuck you Rick, we're back. We had to heal in between before we went on to take on the second one, but this time it actually looks like we're going to run out of PP, and we do during the battle. So, once again, because we run out of PP, we actually lose to another Bugcatcher, but specifically Weedle. So I'm kind of starting to feel like Weedle has a bit of a vendetta against Gligar for whatever reason. But anyway, after that second embarrassing defeat, I think it's time to grind up some levels and then just avoid every Bugcatcher in the Viridian Forest at all costs.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Okay, so now that that mini meltdown's over, we're going to actually move on to the Pewter City Gym now and take on the gym leader Brock. I know, 4.5 minutes plus into the video and we're only just battling our first gym leader. Who would have thought we would have had such a problem with the Bugcatchers in the Viridian Forest? However, unlike the Bugcatchers, this first battle actually starts off pretty smoothly. I opt for a Poison Sting straight off the bat. We get a critical hit, although you wouldn't even notice, and we manage to poison the Geodude on the first turn. Now the Geodude just opts for a defense curl, and it pretty much just locks itself into defense curls. And from this point, I'm quite happy to let the poisoning do the chip damage, and I choose to just make sure the Geodude can't hit me, as I'm going to need as much HP as possible to deal with his Onix, as that's much more of a threat than the Geodude. Once I get a Geodude to -3 accuracy, I decide to start charging up my own defense stat, and then I just hit 6 hardens in a row, so I'm at +6 defense, ready for when the Onix comes out. The only move I'm really worried about on this Onix is Rock Tomb, but luckily due to our dual ground and flying typing, we actually take neutral damage from it, and it has only got 80% accuracy off the bat, so I'm hoping it won't hit us too many times in a row. He says, getting hit on the first attempt. Wow. And crit too. Well, this might not be our day. Right now I'm thinking, since Rock Tomb isn't even 100% accurate, if we start lowering its accuracy, it should have little to no chance to hit me. So I opt for a sand attack, and then it hits me again on the second turn. With Onix being at -1 accuracy, this means Rock Tomb currently has a 70% chance to land. This is just bullshit. And then, to make matters worse, it lands a Bind, despite being at -1 accuracy. Bind is only 75% accurate off the bat, so he's hit a move with 70% accuracy and 65% accuracy. And the worst part about Bind is it does chip damage, like poisoning. So although I actually resist the initial damage, the chip damage really starts to hurt after a while. Plus, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I use a move that isn't 100% accurate, it seems like it's 50% accurate. Even moves that have like 95% accuracy never seem to go well for me. How is the NPC this lucky? But then, as if by magic, the RNG gods grant me a piece of luck, and I manage to poison the Onix with my third Poison Sting attack. So from here, the rest of this battle is more about stamina and who can outlast the other. For Gligar, it's not looking that great. The chip damage from the poisoning really racks up, and we managed to get free from Bind right at the last minute, and then all of a sudden this battle goes from looking like nearly a wipe to almost certain victory. We managed to tank one last tackle from Onix, and then the poisoning damage along with a Poison Sting attack managed to take down the big rock snake, leaving us with a victory and only 10 HP remaining. That was a bit too close. We also get TM39 Rock Tomb for defeating Brock, which could be useful for any more Weedles we happen to encounter along the way. Seems petty, I know, but feels good. Whilst progressing through Route 3, we actually level up to level 20 and learn the move Quick Attack, which I switch out for Sand Attack. We make our way through Mount Moon with little difficulty and arrive in Cerulean City. There's quite a lot for us to do in Cerulean City, from the rival battle to the gym leader battle to help Bill to Nugget Bridge, so we decide to have a look around Cerulean City first, and we come across this trainer who's trying to train her Slowbro, and she's like, "Slowbro, use Sonic Boom," and then wonders why the thing doesn't obey her. Slowbro can't learn Sonic Boom. You fucking moron. Heading north towards Nugget Bridge, we have another rival battle. This time I'm thinking we should be okay. We've got Rock Tomb, which is a super effective move against his Pidgeot. On the first turn, we try to land a Rock Tomb and we miss, obviously. Then we get our accuracy dropped. We go for Rock Tomb again and we miss again. On the third attempt, we also miss. On the fourth attempt, we finally land a Rock Tomb. Now, Brock didn't have that bad luck when he was using it against me. RNG gods are out to get me. I also feel like this really solidifies my theory that if a move isn't 100% accurate, it's basically 50% accurate. Up next is a major threat in Squirtle, as it has super effective moves it can use against us. But it starts off just by raising its own defense and then lowering my defense. And I'm thinking, oh, well, if we can just keep chipping away at this, we should be okay. But I miss a couple of quick attacks due to the accuracy drop the Pidgeot got on me. The first water gun does a small amount of damage, and the second one crits and KOs me. Time to try that again. We lead off with a Rock Tomb, but surprise surprise, again we miss. But this time the Pidgeot just goes for a Gust instead of a Sand Attack, and on the second bite of the cherry we take it out with Rock Tomb. Squirtle is up next, and we lead with a Quick Attack, which does about a third before it raises its own defense stat. And after that, it's just a case of chipping away with quick attacks. We sponge 2 water guns with relatively low damage, and the rest of the battle is easy from here. At this stage, Gary's Abra doesn't actually know any attacking moves, so we just use 2 Poison Stings to conserve PP just in case something goes wrong with the Rattata, and then 1 quick attack lands the crit to take out the Rattata. After defeating all the trainers on Nugget Bridge, I continue along the route toward Bill's house. Using the trainers for XP fodder, we level up to level 28 and unlock the move Feint Attack, which in this gen is a special move, and Gligar's special attack is really not that great at a base 35. I decide to teach it to Gligar regardless in exchange for Poison Sting, because it's a dark type move which could be useful for the later gyms. I'm thinking about Sabrina, and it also can't miss. We make it to Bill's house and find out he's turned himself into a Clefairy. And I can't be the only one who is thinking, oof, is this guy a furry or something? We offer to help him out, but then I have a change of heart because I think this guy might be mentally fucking ill. Stay safe out there, kids. Leaving Furry Bill alone, we proceed to Misty's gym. And I can't lie, despite us being a much higher level than her two Pokemon, we are weak to them, so I was apprehensive to see how this would go. She leads with Staryu, which we almost one-tap with a quick attack. Fortunately for us, she just decides to go for a Harden, which means when the Starmie comes out, we'll have full HP. She then heals, and then after that, it's just a simple case of 2 priority quick attacks to take out a Staryu. Starmie is up next, and this thing could potentially be really threatening with its Water Pulse move. It goes for Water Pulse on its first turn, and it connects. But luckily, we don't get confused. On the second turn, I decide to switch it up and go for a Feint Attack, given that it's super effective against Starmie, and it does a lot more damage than I thought it would do. Starmie responds by landing a Water Pulse, which Gligar tanks on 22 HP remaining. Expecting her to heal, I go for another Feint Attack again, but she doesn't, so another Feint Attack finishes her off. That's 2 badges now. So far, so good. Now that we've beaten Misty, it's time to head south towards Vermilion City, as Lieutenant Surge is up next. In order to get there, we have to walk through this house that's been ransacked, where this guy says that he's had his TM for Dig stolen. We find a Rocket Grunt who's responsible, defeat him in battle, and then retrieve the TM for Dig. But now I've got a question for you guys. Does that make us the thief? If you steal stolen goods from a thief, does that make you the thief? Food for thought. Thinking time over now as we've got to deal with the shenanigans aboard the SSN. Nothing here really seems out of the ordinary until we speak to one of the chefs in the kitchen, where he tells us that today's main course is prime beefsteak. Prime beefsteak? In the Pokemon world? Does that mean we're eating Tauros? Suddenly, I'm vegan. Putting the moral conflict behind us, it's time for another rival battle. Once again, our rival leads with Pidgeotto, and once again, we miss our first Rock Tomb. Fuck you, RNG gods. However, our second Rock Tomb lands and we manage to one-tap the Pidgeotto. Our rival Starter Squirtle has now evolved into a Wartortle, which could be a major threat for us. Although, like it has in the previous battles, it just comes in and starts buffing its own defense stat with Withdraw, which means that we can take it out in 1 quick attack and 2 feint attacks, without taking any damage ourselves. The rest of the battle is plain sailing from here. Get it? Because we're on a boat.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
2 quick attacks take out the Raticate. 1 feint attack takes out the Kadabra, handing us the victory. We head upstairs and encounter the Sea Captain, who's being sick. After we rub his back, he rewards us with HMO1 cut. This guy should be on a list. Help! Now that we're back on dry land, I think it's time that we put our original starter Charmander to use. I mean, seriously, what better HM slave is there than a Charmander? Welcome back to the team, buddy. Using cut, we can actually access Lieutenant Surge's gym. And given that Gligar is part ground type, this should be an absolute cakewalk. For probably the first time ever in my life playing through Pokemon Fire Red, I actually managed to turn off both of Lieutenant Surge's electric fences on the first try. Let me know if you've ever done this on the first try in the comments below. Our battle with Lieutenant Surge is up next, and as I mentioned earlier, this should be a piece of piss. Now, perhaps foolishly, I actually forgot to teach Gligar Dig when we got the TM, so we're going into this battle without a stab of ground type move. But I really don't think that'll make a difference, and I'm proved right. We take the Voltorb out with 2 quick attacks as it misses its Sonic Boom. Pikachu is up next, but all that can offer is a measly double team as we take it out with 2 feint attacks, which just leaves Raichu. 1 quick attack takes it down to roughly half as it tries to land a Thunder Wave, which we are immune to. On the second turn, we use another quick attack, which lands a crit for the KO and victory. 3 badges in the bag. If we're going off difficulty alone, then Bugcatcher Rick should be a gym lead, rather than half these phonies. We continue onwards to Route 9, where we level up to level 36 whilst battling an NPC trainer on a route. At level 36, Gligar learns Slash, which I'm sure will be a useful move throughout our run. So I decide to ditch Harden in favour of it. On the same route, we find a really useful TM in Aerial Ace. This is like the only stab flying type move that Gligar can learn in this gen from TM, as it gets none via level up. So we teach it to Gligar immediately, favouring it over Rock Tomb, since Rock Tomb has only hit about 5% of the time since we've been using it anyway. Rock Tunnel is up ahead, and in order to navigate it easily, we're going to need the HM for Flash. However, for Professor Oak's aid to actually give you the HM, you need to have caught at least 10 different types of Pokemon. So, time to catch some Pokemon. While in Rock Tunnel, we come across a trainer that will move tutor one of your Pokemon to move Rock Slide. This is a pretty powerful move for so early in the game, so I oblige and let the trainer teach Gligar Rock Slide in exchange for Quick Attack. The rival battle in Pokemon Tower is up next, which is pretty easy considering how over leveled we are for this point in the game. We kick things off with a Rock Slide which one taps the Pidgeotto. Thank God it hit this time. Mortortle is up next. We hit it with an Aerial Ace, and it just decides to raise its defense stat once again with a Withdraw. So on the second bite of the cherry, we take it out with another Aerial Ace. Growlithe is up next, and our ability Hypercutter comes in clutch, as it stops Growlithe from lowering our attack. We respond with a super effective Rock Slide to take it out. His remaining two Pokemon, Execute and Katambra, don't stand a chance, as we one-tap both with Aerial Ace and Feint Attack respectively.
I'm on vacation with my brother and boyfriend. Celadon is such a pretty city.
Yippee, I'm on vacation. My sis brought me along. Awesome. Why? Why did she bring her brother? Nothing like getting cock-blocked by your in-laws, am I right, boys? While in Celadon, we proceed onwards to Erica's gym in the quest for our 4th badge, where we're awkwardly greeted by this guy who's outside looking through the window, who says, "Hehehe, this gym is great. It's full of women. You want to be careful before you find yourself on Gym Creep TikTok and get cancelled, sir." Our battle with Gym Leader Erica is up next, and if you thought the battle with Lieutenant Surge was easy, you haven't seen nothing yet. Using Aerial Ace, we outspeed and one-tap her Victory Bell, Tangela, and Vileplume to win the battle in 3 clean moves. 4 badges in the bag. While in the Rocket Hideout, we come across the item Black Glasses, which I decide to give to Gligar, just to help him get a little bit of a buff on his Dark-type move, Feint Attack, since his special attack in this gen is abysmal. Our first battle with Giovanni is up next, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. So, Dad, what okay today? Giovanni leads with Onix. Given that Onix's defense stat is much higher than its special defense stat, I decide to use Feint Attack as it's our only special move, and Onix resists our other 3 moves. Despite the Black Glasses boost, the Onix actually manages to tank 3 Feint Attacks in a row. But I guess that's to be expected anyway, since we do only have a base 35 special attack stat. He sends out Rhyhorn next, and I opt for the same strategy as I did with the Onix. But this time the Rhyhorn falls to just 2 Feint Attacks, whilst lowering our defense in the process. The physical powerhouse of his team, Kangaskhan, is last, and on the first turn we go for a Rock Slide, but unfortunately we miss. But we sponge the Mega Punch quite well despite our defense drop. Our second Rock Slide connects and gets the flinch. We go for another Rock Slide on turn 3 and get the flinch again, which allows us to wrap this battle up with a swift Aerial Ace to the face. After getting the Sylph Scope from the Rocket Hideout, we head back to Lavender Town and rescue Mr. Fuji from the top of the Pokemon Tower. To thank us for our efforts, he gives us a Poké Flute that we can use to wake up the 2 sleeping Snorlaxes. Whilst travelling through Route 12, we encounter a trainer who gives us the TM for return. I have no doubt that this will be useful at some point in our run. As we approach Fuchsia City, we encounter another one of Professor Oak's aides. He says he'll give us an XP share if we've caught 50 kinds of Pokemon. And why would I need an XP share? My starter, Gligar, is the most OP thing in my party. We need to level up other Pokemon. While in Fuchsia City, we encounter a toothless crackhead called the Warden. Don't know if that's his street name or not, but pretty cool regardless. We try speaking to him, but all he says is, "Hif huff hif hifu," And this, children, is where you shouldn't do meth. After going on a whimsical journey through the safari zone for this crackhead's teeth, we are presented with another HM. This time is Strength, and I waste no time in teaching it to our HM slave Charmander. Our battle with Gym Leader Koga is fast approaching, and this is the first one I haven't got that great of a feeling about. He leads with Coughing, and foolishly I forgot to heal myself before the battle. I lead with an Aerial Ace just to see how much damage it can do, and it does a hefty chunk, but we get poisoned with Toxic on the first attempt, so it's pretty safe to say that this is going to be a wipe. We press him regardless and take it out on a second turn with another Aerial Ace. Muck is up next, and I decide to go for an Aerial Ace since I know it likes to minimise. An Aerial Ace is unevadable. We do about half, so if we get a high roll on the second turn we should be able to take it out with another Aerial Ace. But we don't, and it lives on just a sliver, hitting us with another Sludge, which we tank pretty well since we resist it, but the poison damage is really starting to rack up, and we inevitably fall to it on the following turn. Our first loss to a gym leader so far. On our second attempt at Koga's battle, things start off a lot better, as we land a crit straight off the bat to one-tap the Coughing instantly. Muck is sent out next, and I use Slash to see how much damage we'll do. And we do about a quarter. Muck responds by using Acid Armor to sharply raise its defense stat. We trade a Slash for an Acid Armor again on the second turn. Now that the Muck is at +4 defense, I decide to start using our special attacking move in Feint Attack to see if that will do more damage. And it really doesn't. Things aren't looking good as we land another Feint Attack and we put Muck in the red, but it lands a Toxic on us, which means we are now against the clock. And then, to make matters worse, Koga pulls a Hyper Potion out of his arse. This is really unfortunate because this started off so promisingly, but it looks like we're about to wipe again. We try our best to deal damage to the Muck, but since it's raised its defense and now its evasiveness, it's either too hard to hit or too bulky to actually take damage from us. So, once again, we get Toxic stalled out of this one. I think we're going to have to level up a bit before we can actually defeat Koga, so that's what we'll do. We kick things off on our third attempt with a Slash attack. The Coughing responds with a smoke screen, lowering our accuracy. So, on the second turn, I decide to hit it with an Aerial Ace, since Aerial Ace can't miss. 1 down, 3 to go. Muck is up next, and whilst grinding, I finally decided to teach Gligar Dig, as it's a super effective move against poison type Pokemon. We go for Dig turn 1, and Muck raises its evasiveness with Minimize. On our turn to attack, our Dig misses. Things are starting to look a bit dangerous here, as this Muck is sort of getting into territory where it's pretty much untouchable. It's raised its defense, its evasiveness, and we've also had our accuracy dropped by the first Coughing smoke screen. Luckily for us, we have Aerial Ace, which can't miss. And despite the defense buffs, we still do a respectable amount of damage, so we bring Muck down to about a third. Muck then goes for a Sludge, and I'm hoping that we don't get poisoned here. And we don't, which is great news for us. I don't want the Muck to heal, and I feel like all of our other attacks apart from Dig will probably put it into the red, which risks it healing. So I decide to roll the dice and hope that the RNG gods grant us a bit of luck. Whilst underground, we evade a Toxic, which is huge. Now we've just got to land our Dig, and we do, which slams Muck into the ground. 2 down, 4 to go. Another Coughing is up next. We opt for a Slash, hoping that we can do some big damage. Get it down to about a quarter, and the Coughing just self-destructs on us, which Gligar sponges really well. It's now just 1v1, Gligar versus Weezing. This for the badge. We lead with a Slash, which does about a third, as the Weezing opts to lower our accuracy once again with a smokescreen. We can't afford to miss any more attacks, so I decide to go on the hard offensive now, and just spam Aerial Ace. However, we do a little bit too much damage this time, we put it in healing range unfortunately. The following turn we go for another Aerial Ace, get a critical hit, and we leave it on what must be a sliver, which prompts Koga to heal Weezing once again. From this point on though, I'm pretty sure Koga is out of potions, so it's just about whittling down the Weezing as quick as we can, and hopefully avoiding not getting poisoned. We tear through the Weezing with 3 Aerial Aces in rapid succession, whilst tanking a Sludge attack on the way, to earn us the victory and our 5th badge. Backtracking to Celadon now, where we meet a kind old lady who gives us a tea, only for the guard at Saffron Gate to then steal the tea from us. Yeah, no worries mate, didn't want it anyway. Before taking on Team Rocket at the Silphco building, I decided to hit up the Fighting Dojo. Apparently this used to be the old gym of the city, and once you see how quickly I get through it, you'll see why it's not the gym anymore. We make our way into Silphco next with little resistance as the guard outside is actually asleep. Wow. and I thought Jesse James and Meowth were Team Rocket's worst employees. Not much of note actually happens inside Silph Co other than the rival battle, and I can't be the only one who always thought it was weird that our rival, instead of helping us take down a criminal organisation who just took siege of a government building, decides to battle us. Like, this guy really is an arsehole. But also, where the fuck are the police in this? You're telling me a huge building in the region's biggest city gets taken over by a criminal organisation and there's not one police officer in sight? But you'd find them at a donut shop though, wouldn't you? Honestly, why do we pay taxes? We have reports of a criminal organisation taking over the Silph Company building in Saffron City. Could all units respond ASAP, please? Thank you. I see we sit this one out and let a 10-year-old deal with it. Yeah, sounds good. Anyhow, back to doing the Kanto police's job. Our rival starter has now evolved into a Blastoise, but luckily for us, it only has its level up moveset, so its most powerful move that it can hit us with is only Water Gun at this level. And we do out-level it by 19 levels, just because all of the XP has been going to Gligar. So it wastes 2 turns protecting itself before we manage to land an Aerial Ace, which does a little over half. It responds with a Water Gun, so now decide to go for a dig. When we rise from the ground on the second turn, we take out a Blastoise. He sends out Growlithe next, and we're going back underground again to one-shot this thing with a stab at super effective ground type move. His 2 remaining Pokemon, Execute and Alakazam, are no match for us, as a swift Aerial Ace to the face, or faces since there's multiple faces on Execute, takes it out in one shot, and since Alakazam has a physical defense stat of a wet paper towel, we one-tap it with a slash, ending the battle. All that's left for us to do now in the Silph Co building is take out Giovanni for the second time. And this battle really isn't too difficult for us since 3 of his 4 Pokemon are weak to ground type moves. He leads Nidorino, which we one tap with a dig. He sends out Kangaskhan next and uses a fake out on the first turn, and all that really does is waste a turn before its inevitable demise. Our first Aerial Ace brings it down to about a third, and our second finishes it off. His 2 remaining Pokemon, Rhyhorn and Nidoqueen, both also get one tapped with a dig. We speak to the president of the Silph Company, and he says, "I have to thank you in some way, because I am very rich, I can give you anything," and then gives us a ball. Great. Thanks, mate. Brand new MX-5 would have been nice, but whatever. We decide to travel over to Cinnabar next, forgetting to do Sabrina's gym in the city that we were just in for whatever reason. But it doesn't really matter, because we're going to absolutely wipe the floor with both these gyms. So whether we do it the 6th gym first or 7th gym first, it won't make a difference. Blaine leads with Growlithe. And once again, our ability Hypercut are coming in clutch as we negate the Intimidate. We one-tap the Growlithe with a Rock Slide. He sends out Ponyta next, and we dig underground, and when we surface, Ponyta is no more. Rapidash is sent out next, and that suffers the exact same fate as its pre-evolution Ponyta. His final Pokemon Arcanine is then sent out, and we shrug off the Intimidate and then hit it with a Rock Slide into the red, and we get a flinch. Blaine then heals, and then to avoid putting it in healing range again, I decide to opt for an Aerial Ace and then finish it up with a Rock Slide. That's 6 badges. After leaving Blaine's gym, Bill, remember that sus furry guy from earlier in the run, offers to take us to a place called One Island on a boat. Now, we don't need a sugar daddy, and we're actually a bit scared for our own safety, so we decline the offer to partake in furry-related activities. Backtracking to Saffron now to take out gym leader Sabrina, and this one, like Blaine, is going to be a walk in the park. The majority of our Pokemon are very frail in the physical defense department, and with Gligar being a physical attacker, they don't really stand a chance. We outspeed and one-tap her Kadabra, Mr. Mime, Venomoth, and Alakazam, ending the battle in 4 swift strikes, handing us the 6th Kanto badge and our 7th in total. With the Elite Four fast approaching, I decided to just wrap up the final gym, straight after the Sabrina battle. We can actually deal super effective damage to a lot of Giovanni's Pokemon, so like the last 2 gyms, this should be a cakewalk too. And unlike the last couple of gyms, I'm actually not even really going to go over this because we one-tap everything. His 2 Rhyhorns, his Nidoking and his Nidoqueen all fall to a dig, and the Dugtrio falls to an Aerial Ace, and that gives us 8 badges. Bring on the league! For defeating Giovanni, we're actually rewarded with a really useful TM in Earthquake, and this is the highest base power stab move that Gligar can get in this gen, and there couldn't be a more perfect time to get it. We've got one final rival battle left before we hit up Victory Road, so let's get into it. He leads Pidgeot as per usual, and we hit it with a super effective Rock Slide for the one-hit KO. Blastoise is up next, and we decide to dig underground while he sets the rain. Things are looking pretty dangerous now, because as the rain's up, his water type moves will do increased damage, and we are weak to them. Our dig connects, and we do about a quarter, but his water gun does about a third to us, which is not looking good, because now we're in crit range. On the following turn, I decide to lead with a Rock Slide in the hope that we can get the flinch, but that doesn't happen, and we take another rain boosted water gun to the face, leaving us with about a fifth of our HP remaining. I try for an aerial ace as it can't miss, but another water gun takes us out. We go again. The second battle starts off similar to the first, with us nailing Pidgeot with a super effective Rock Slide, but this time it survives on just a sliver, which means that it was a range last time and we got the high roll. We sponge a wing attack effectively, and then we respond with an aerial ace without him healing. Blastoise comes out next, and I use aerial ace, which does about a quarter before it hits us with a water gun, which we tank reasonably well. I then decide to go for a slash in the hope that we get a critical hit, and we do, and the Blastoise just sets the rain, which means on the third turn we can take it out with another aerial ace. I know Blastoise wasn't in the red there, but I'm still really surprised that he didn't heal. But sometimes I suppose you need a bit of luck. We take his next Pokemon, Rhyhorn, out easily with a dig. We one-tap his Growlithe with a super effective Rock Slide, and slice his Execute open with a super effective aerial ace. His final Pokemon, Alakazam, is easily dealt with another aerial ace, winning us the battle. While in Victory Road, we find TMO2, which contains Dragon Claw, and it got me thinking, like, surely maybe Gligar can learn Dragon Claw, since it literally has two massive claws for hands, but he can't. And then I sort of think, well, I guess they're not claws, they're more pincers, aren't they? But, you know, it can't hurt to dream. We make it to the Pokemon League, and before I decide to take them on, there's some preparations I need to make. One is to get the item finder from one of Professor Oak's aides, and in order to get this we need to have caught at least 30 different kinds of Pokemon. We need the item finder to find the hidden item of leftovers under either of the static encounter Snorlaxes on the two routes. And I also think it could be beneficial to find any of the hidden rare candies that are left over in the overworld, and any PP maxes too, since those things are like gold dust. Once we collected as many PP ups as we needed, I put them to good use on Gligar's now edited moveset. I switched out Slash for return, since his base friendship's got to be pretty high and it's a physical move. I kept Aerial Ace and Rock Slide, and I taught Gligar Earthquake in exchange for Dig. In addition, I also attached the leftovers to Gligar to hopefully give him a bit of longevity in battle. But now, it's time to take on the Elite Four and Champion with just a Gligar. Lorelei is up first, and she's probably going to be the biggest problem for us out of all the Elite Four members, since we're 4 times weak to ice and 2 times weak to water. She leads Dugong, and I decide to use a return to see how much damage we can do, and it looks like we do a little bit over half, as we're then slammed with a super effective Ice Beam and will survive on just 36 HP, but our leftovers bring us back up to 48 HP. I decide to go for the super effective Rock Slide on the second turn, hoping it doesn't miss, and it doesn't, and we take out the Dugong. Her incredibly physically bulky Cloyster comes in next, and I decide to go for an Earthquake to see how much damage we can do. We do a little over half again, but now the Cloyster sets the Hail, which isn't too bad, but it's going to negate our leftovers recovery, but at least we're not actually taking damage from it. On the second turn, I go for another Earthquake, but the Cloyster protects. And on our third chance, another Earthquake slams it into the ground. Slowbro is third, and fearing the end, I'm sort of running out of ideas here. I decide to go for an Earthquake, just to see how much damage we can get on it. And again, we do a solid amount over half this time, but it did take a little bit of chip damage from the Hail. And then, the Slowbro responds with a super effective Surf, ending our first attempt. Roll on attempt number 2, and this time I decide to lead with a Rock Slide since it's super effective. It lands and we put Dugong into the red, and then like in attempt 1, the Dugong responds with a super effective Ice Beam, but this time it gets the crit and ends our second attempt prematurely. Our third attempt doesn't go much better now either. I'm feeling like we're going to have to level up because the Dugong keeps spamming Ice Beam on the first turn, which makes me think that we must be a range for it to KO. Given that we did actually get crit on the second attempt, I'm probably correct. The Cloister setting up Hail is hurting us too, as it's preventing us from actually being able to get Leftovers recovery. And we can't one-tap it because its defense stat is massive at a base 180, which is leaving us with little to no HP left for when the Slowbro comes in, and it can either one-tap us with a Surf or Ice Beam. We grind Gligar up to level 75, and then we attempt Lorelei for the 4th time. I kick the battle off with a Rock Slide, which does huge damage and leaves Dugong on what must be about 1 HP, but instead of going for an Ice Beam this time, the Dugong safeguards. She then heals on the 2nd turn, so I go for a return in the hope that we won't put it in healing range, and we don't, which means another return can take it out. So far, so good. 1 Pokemon down and we've taken no damage. Cloister is up next, and we hit it with a Rock Slide which does a little over half, and luckily for us the Cloister just set spikes. Now it's not in healing range now, so another Rock Slide should take it out. I go for a return to reserve Rock Slide PP since I know it's probably likely to protect, but it protects twice in a row, so we still waste a 1 Rock Slide PP, but the 2nd Rock Slide takes it out. Our arch nemesis Slowbro is sent out next, and I go for a return which does a little under half, whilst the Slowbro uses an Amnesia to buff its own special defense stat. On the 2nd turn I decide to go for a Stab Earthquake, and we deal just enough damage to take the Slowbro out. This is the furthest we've got. Jinx is up next, and this thing could potentially be a run ender with moves like Lovely Kiss, but its defense stat isn't great, so long as Rock Slide doesn't miss, we should be golden. And it doesn't, and the Jinx goes down. Her Ace Lapras is all that remains, and we hit it with a powerful Rock Slide which leaves it on about a 3rd, as it confuses us with Confuse Ray. Its Citrus Berry brings it back to about half, and now we have to land this Rock Slide, because 1 Blizzard will probably end us. It connects, and we take down the Lapras. Thank you RNG gods. Never before has the first member of the Elite Four given me such a problem, but Gligar is 4 times weak to Ice, so I guess it does make sense. And a lot of her Pokemon are part Water type too, which we're also weak to. Elite Four Pushover Bruno is up next, and Gligar's typing pretty much hard resists his entire team. The ground will deal with his 2 Onixes, and the flying will deal with his 3 fighting types, so this should be a cakewalk. Cue an epic montage of us eviscerating Bruno's team. I know Bruno gets a lot of disrespect, but he's honestly trash. 2 down, 3 to go. Poison Specialist Agatha is up next. No, I didn't get that wrong. And I know she likes to poison, paralyze, and confuse you, so hopefully we can outspeed the majority of her team and one-tap a lot of them. She leads Gengar, which we can't hit with a super effective Earthquake as it has Levitate in this gen, so our Aerial Ace takes it down to about a quarter as she just goes for a double team, meaning that on the 2nd turn another Aerial Ace takes it out. Golbat is up next, which somehow sponges a super effective Rock Slide with about 1 HP remaining. This thing must have a plus defense nature. From there on, she heals, so I decide to go for an Aerial Ace to avoid putting it back in healing range, which works successfully, so on the following turn I can take it out of a return. She sends out Haunter next, which we one-tap with an Aerial Ace, which just leaves Gengar and Arbok. She opts for the Gengar, which we hit with an Aerial Ace down to about a quarter, as it responds with a Shadow Ball, which is physical in this gen, so we just eat it up. Its Citrus Berry heals it back to about half though, but we can take it out with another Aerial Ace on the 2nd time of asking. All that remains is her Arbok, which we one-tap with a Stab super effective Earthquake for the KO and victory. Only 2 battles stand between us from gaining the title of Kanto champion with just a Gligar, with the first of them being against Lance, and this could potentially be a banana skin as some of his Pokemon know the move Blizzard. He leads with a Gyarados whose Intimidate ability has no effect on us due to our ability Hyper Car. We go for a Rock Slide on the 1st turn and we knock it into the red, and we manage to get the flinch. Lance then heals, so I go for a return to avoid putting it into healing range again. The return does about half, so I decide to go for another return to avoid risking Rock Slide missing. We're faced with Aerodactyl next, so I opt for a Rock Slide, which manages to get a critical hit and one-tap it. So far, the RNG gods have been blessing us hard in this battle. The flinch on Gyarados, and the critical hit on Aerodactyl. A major threat in Dragonite is sent out next, so I decide to hit it with our only super effective move Rock Slide, which does a little bit over half. Dragonite goes for a Safeguard, which doesn't really affect us since we have no status moves, and after its berry is brought back just above half. Luckily our 2nd Rock Slide doesn't miss as we take it out. and we managed to OHKO his 2 remaining Dragonairs with an Earthquake each. We've got one final battle against our rival next, the ultimate test for this small flying scorpion to see whether it can alone become Kanto champion. We restore our PP for our moves before the fight and then get straight into it. Our rival kicks things off with his lead Pidgeot like he does in every battle, and when I decide to go for a return, because my damage calcs tell me that it's a range whether we take it out of a Rock Slide, and I don't want to risk putting it in the range that it can heal itself. Our plan works, and after the return's chip damage we can take it out of a Rock Slide. Our biggest threat in Blastoise is up next, and I decide to go for an Earthquake since it's just simply our most powerful move, as his Blastoise sets the rain. It does a little over half, but its Citrus Berry brings it back to bang on half, and now it's a range whether we take it out or not. I go for another Earthquake, and we take it out. I'm not too worried about the rest of our rivals team as we have decent move coverage to deal with a lot of them. However, his Alakazam comes in and slams me with a critical hit Psychic, and it does way more damage than I thought it would, leaving us on just 76 HP. Leftovers help us out as our rival heals, and we go for another Aerial Ace, which puts Alakazam in the red again. He heals Alakazam again, so I decide to use the power of friendship in return to one-tap the Alakazam. Go Gligar. Exeggutor then comes out, and I hit it with an Aerial Ace, super effective damage, putting it down to about a fifth. He then lands a Sleep Powder, and this is looking dangerous, but we've managed to get back a little over half our HP with the leftovers. He then heals Exeggutor as we stay asleep, although we wake up on the next turn and then slam it with a super effective Aerial Ace into the yellow, as it uses a Giga Drain, which puts us down to 90 HP and puts itself out of healing range, which means that on the following turn we can respond with another Aerial Ace to take it out. We're super effective against his 2 remaining Pokemon, Rhydon and Arcanine, so it's looking like this battle is now in the bag. A stab super effective Earthquake takes out the Rhydon, and unfortunately for him, his Arcanine suffers the same fate, making this little flying scorpion the official champion of Kanto. I have to say, that run was actually really fun. You can't actually catch Gligar in Gen 3 Kanto, so it was quite cool seeing its sprite in this game, and using it despite its level up moveset in this gen being absolutely atrocious. We actually completed this run from start to finish with an in-game time of 21 hours and 53 minutes, which at ×4 speed is roughly 5.5 hours, which I don't think is too bad at all really, given that this was my first attempt at a solo run like this. But if you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing below. If this video gets 20 likes, maybe I'll post the Elite Four rematch and the Sevi Islands part of the story too. But until next time, thanks for